organization wins some games.
All right, what do we got?
We went through some of them yesterday. We got some fresh submissions, though. I like this.
Good.
Super Bowl slogans, Super Bowl 58. Down in Las Vegas. Technically, I believe that's Paradise, Nevada, which is where Allegiant Stadium stands. How about this one? So you know where the buzzer and or that's right is?
I got you.
All right. I love this one. From wild card dud to 7 card stud.
Oh, that's
right.
That's fantastic. From wild card dud to 7 card stud on the fan.
All right, from my ding-a-ling to Kirk and the Vikings winning a ring.
I like it. It's clever. It's funny. And it's not going to play through the course of the season. And what we're doing is we're looking to narrow this down
For Big Voice.
to like 10. 10 to 12 that we send to Big Voice Mitch in Delray Beach, Florida, and he does this thing, Mission Miami. And I think we're getting closer. Do you think we're getting closer?
I think we're very close.
How many would you say we have for sure?
I think we got 5 or 6 for sure so far.
So that means 64686. We need a little help on it here. 64686 for that old text line. If some come in late during the course of an interview that comes up in 5 minutes, then we'll either share them nearing the end of the show or we may share them tomorrow. What else?
So wild card dud, 7 card stud, that's one of them.
That's in.
All right, so we got one.
What did we determine was in yesterday?
Well, that I'm going back so I think we do 58th times the charm. I think we just do that every year
100%.
Until we figure it out.
Yep.
Netflix for show, Vegas for dough.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
I like that one.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Doing the gritty in Sin City. What do you think?
In.
Yeah,
I like those. And we have some with like Mission Miami or whatever this year's version of that would be.
Well, Cordell from Apple Valley writes Destination Desert.
Yeah, that's good. Destination Desert.
I think that's in.
Yep, that's in for sure.
Okay.
But they have common threads, going all the way back to when we kind of started this, maybe 2009-ish or something, because the Super Bowl was in Miami in 2009. And trip on this, we had Brett Favre and the ball and 2 minutes to go in the game and a timeout to get to Miami for at least 10 days of 9 to noon, 10 to 1, just for fun.
Yeah.
And then he throws it to Tracy Porter.
It was all over. The montage was probably already set.
Yeah.
I mean, everything was planned.
Yeah, going to Miami.
I've seen 50 different variations of this, so this is the way that I look at it.
Yep.
Valhalla in Vegas. Or something like that.
Valhalla in Vegas. Yeah, Vikings Heaven in Vegas. Yeah, I could take or leave that.
Because it's the VV.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Kirko takes his drip to the strip.
I don't get the drip. When you said that yesterday, I didn't get the drip part.
Well, yeah, you do.
What
Kirko chains.
Yeah, Kirko.
The drip.
Oh, that's the drip?
That's the drip.
Hey, look, I'm still wrapped up on Riz.
I know you are.
So I'm still trying to find my Riz. So when I find my Riz, I'll deal with your drip.
Well, you find your ribs, you'll find your Riz.
Oh, believe me, at age 57, dealing with drip is a daily occurrence. But I assume you're talking about something.
Not because of 5 milligrams.
Drip of a dip. Oh, yeah? You're envious.
Oh.
I'm just kidding. The world's envious right now. I'm just kidding. Just kidding. But Kirko's drip, what?
To the strip.
From Kirko's drip to the strip. I'm 75% on that. What about you?
I like it. Some of these I think we just need to reword. Mm-hmm. This is one that I really like. So I think we got 4 right now.
Yeah.
From the land of 10,000 lakes to the land of 10,000 mistakes.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I like that for sure. I mean, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. And, it's what's another Vegas-related cliche? Well, they didn't build all these hotels and have all these shiny lights because everybody wins. I only brought as much as I can afford to lose.
All right, I like this one.
Here, separate from that for a second and help me here.
Yes.
If you head into a place like Las Vegas, Canterbury Park, or whatever, and you're like, I've only brought as much as I can afford to lose.
Right.
Do you realize you're a 95% loser because of your attitude?
You've already lost when you got off the plane.
Yeah. I mean, you're going to be creating anxiety for yourself within one day.
Yeah.
Because your mantra is that of losing. And then the anxiety is going to be because you lost, because you expected to lose.
Circa's going to build a second property off of those people alone.
And then you're thinking about the ATM. And I ain't talking about in Vegas like the $13 fee that maybe your bank doesn't waive. No, you're going to be thinking about Nagzilla, who's not there with you. And you're going to be recognizing the only thing different between my wife and house arrest is I can't fit her around my ankle. And you're just going to look at that PATM and you're going to be like, do I do it? Do I do it? Do I do it? And that's just going to ruin the whole trip.
And then the daily limit hits.
Milton Berle, an old school comedian. This is racetrack related. It's one of the great lines in the history of gaming. Milton Berle at one time said, "The racetrack is the only place where the windows wash the people." Hey,
I like that.
That's brilliant. So it looks like you can go ahead and call Greg. It looks
What about from slots and craps to confetti and claps?
Oh, and
that's it.
Yeah, because that's nice and happy and tame. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, we're up to 7 or 8 so far.
We're getting there, aren't we?
Absolutely.
Well, let's go ahead and eliminate 3 so we can do this all next week. Then we'll say we're at 4. But thank you very much, Rube Nation, for your for the clever nature of the fan family. There are just so many who are clever on a different level. Specifically those, that we will hear some of their work sometimes with Dan Cole, the Common Man, and the program, and things that staff writers, I think is what he calls them, will provide. But for our sake, these Super Bowl slogans, they certainly come in handy. And now hopefully the football team can come through with their portion of the equation. And to analyze that, and the National Football League is one of my very favorites. His name is Greg Cosell, executive producer and analyst for NFL Matchup on ESPN. Also a 43-year producer for NFL Films. And the 9 to noon show kind of inadvertently has an NFL Films feel this week in that we had Bob Angelo on the radio show yesterday to talk about his book. And here's Greg, and he's an elite football mind. How have you been, Greg?
I appreciate you calling me an elite football mind, Paul. We'll see how this goes. We'll see what we talk about.
Well, you're an elite football mind in my estimation because you put in the time. So I'm racetrack raised, where I've been a racetrack announcer for 30 years, which inherently means I'm making predictions on races, and I may hit 25% of the time or 30. So it's not with you or people like you. For me, it's not the hit rate on the predictions, it's the work you put into it and the deduction. And I know that's just, you enjoy it. It's very personal.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I don't make bold, controversial statements. I don't do that. I actually, believe it or not, I actually watch the tape, as you know.
Right. And I'm sorry we missed you at the Combine, but nevertheless, I'd like to start here. Green Bay sans Aaron Rodgers and the offense, or really the team. What do you see? Or what do you think?
Well, I think... Look, to be totally honest, it's an unknown. I think anybody who says they know exactly what Jordan Love is just speculating. We don't know. Because a quarterback has to play week after week after week after week in order to get a feel for what he can be. He's got a very good skill set. I remember watching his tape, not his last year in college, but his previous year when he was very, very good, and the skills and the traits were very evident on tape. And then I believe there was a change in coaching staff, and he certainly did not look as comfortable his last year in college. But he's got higher level traits. They've got young receivers. It's likely to take time, Paul. They'll try to help him with the run game. Obviously, we know LaFleur comes from a background with Shanahan and McVay of running the football, and they'll try to help him with the play-action pass game. and those kinds of things that help define reads and throws for a quarterback. So they're not asking him to do as much mentally early on. But we won't know the answer until he plays. I remember Ron Jaworski telling me when I first started working with him that you really don't know what you have with a quarterback until he has a bad game, and he's likely the reason you lose, and then he has to come in on Wednesday and face the team, and everybody's looking at him. You've got to go through all that. So Love has not gone through that, so we don't really know the answer.
Greg Cosell, 9 to noon. Kirk Cousins, year 2 with Kevin O'Connell. What should the expectations be?
Well, it's funny. I don't know what they think of Kirk Cousins in Minnesota because I don't live there. But if you just look at Kirk Cousins every year, he's pretty much the same guy every single year. He'll have a bad game or two, and a lot of people think, quote unquote, he can win the big one, whatever that may mean. But for the most part, he's an efficient quarterback. He fits in the category. He's not a playmaker, as you know, Paul. You don't put him in the category of the guys that run around and make plays. He's a ball distributor and an efficient executor of a well-schemed offense, and that's what Kevin O'Connell runs: a well-schemed, well-designed offense that Kirk Cousins executes at a relatively high level pretty consistently. That's what he is. You'd expect him to be a little bit better. He's not going to dramatically change. Numbers are numbers. He could throw a few more touchdowns, a few fewer touchdowns. That's just the way a year plays out. I think the bigger question is the number 2 receiver. Obviously, is Jordan Addison going to be that guy? I think Hawkinson is a really, really good receiver. We'll see how all that plays out. I always liked Osborne as well, so we'll see how he fits into all this. So they've got weapons, but they need a fully dimensional offense. They need their run game to be effective. Obviously, they're going to have a new starting running back.
Hey, Greg, Josh Oliver, a tight end the Vikings signed in the offseason from the Ravens. Now, that's a run. Yep. That's a run-first offense with a relative or generally inaccurate quarterback. Now he goes to a pass-first offense with a very accurate quarterback. And here's the point. I had a coaching friend of mine in the AFC North tell me after the Vikings signed him, he's the best run-blocking tight end in the NFL. And I've now heard that twice here. Josh Oliver, how can he help this Vikings offense?
Well, now you get into what they're going to do from a personnel standpoint. Are they going to play more 12 personnel? Because obviously Hawkinson is pretty big time as well. So the question becomes, are they going to play meaningful snaps of 12 personnel? There were teams last year, by the way, the Chiefs did this. A lot of people may not know that. The Chiefs played almost 40% of their snaps offensively last year with multiple tight ends. Is that something the Vikings will do? Or is that going to be a lower percentage, and will they try to play with 11 personnel with 3 wide receivers? We don't know the answer to that. But it's funny you mention Oliver because he's been around the league, but I did him coming into college, and I actually thought he was a pretty good prospect. I can't tell you why it hasn't worked to the point where he's become a meaningful part of an offense, but maybe this is his opportunity.
Greg Cosell, who I've known for quite some time. He's part of ESPN's NFL Matchup and a longtime producer and contributor to NFL Films. He's on the 9 to noon show. It's 11:21. Good morning. So off that, just to land the plane on this whole thing, the NFC North, Greg, who do you think is the best overall quarterback and why? Cousins, Goff, Love, or Fields?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that because last week, I think it was last week, I watched a ton of Lions offense because during the season, it's tough for me to watch, let's say, 250 dropbacks of a quarterback in a row. I can do that in the off season. And I did that with the Lions offense, and I was really, really impressed with the way that offense is put together from a route concept and route combination perspective. I think that they do an incredible job of spacing and balance. You hear a lot in basketball about floor balance. Well, it's true in football as well. It's just a bigger space. And they do an incredible job with that. And they were a very fun watch. Goff is a really efficient player. I think we're uncertain as to what Justin Fields is at this point. The assumption is he'll take a step up. He certainly has the traits and talent to do so. But again, that's a little bit of an unknown at this point. But I think it's a division. We know exactly what Cousins is. The other guy, we know what Goff is. The other two guys, Love and Fields, we're not 100% sure as we speak here on August 2nd, Paul.
Well, with DJ Moore, I mean, I like Darnell Mooney. I've always liked him. I mean,
I do too.
Well, that 2020 draft, whomever was the first to say this is going to be the greatest wide receiver draft in the history of the NFL, props to them. I mean, because they probably are going to be right when you're getting guys like Darnell Mooney in the 5th round. But DJ Moore, from all accounts, is having a terrific camp. I just wonder if Justin has found his swivel. And you watch 1,000 times more tape than me. When I say that, it's from preparing for Vikings-Bears games. And when I watch the All-22, he just lacks a swivel. I mean, his head's not on a swivel.
Well, it's funny. I watched a ton of Fields as well, and I think there were flashes of from last year where you say that he can do it. Now, again, that doesn't mean he can or can't. There were flashes where he did drop back. You had a sense he understood exactly what he was seeing, and he went through a progression. He threw with timing. He threw with anticipation. He certainly can make every throw. Obviously, the run game element forces defenses to have to do certain things that they don't have to do against quarterbacks that don't provide that element. So that by NFL standards, makes it relatively easier from a game plan standpoint for the Bears offensive coaches, because they know what they're going to get defensively because of the run game element that Fields provides. And that can't be minimized, by the way. I mean, I see that in Philadelphia with Jalen Hurts. That's a major deal, that defenses have to do different things that offenses know what it is because of the run game element. So I would expect Fields to improve this year.
Good Lord, this is fantastic. Thank you. Greg Cosell, at Greg Cosell via Twitter, Cosell. Follow him as 9 to Noon does. I might be wrong with this, and you've watched more than me of Justin Herbert. I just remember 2 years ago some things that I heard from Mike Zimmer and the Vikings defensive coaches about the kryptonite for Justin Herbert. And then calling the game and winning the game, I saw it. So Justin Herbert, I think he's good, not great. What do you think?
Well, what's the kryptonite?
Middle of the field, in that he will stay, but preferably if you keep him between the middle of the field, that's where he wants to be, and it becomes predictable.
And that may well be true. That's hard for me to know, even watching tape, because I don't know what's in his head. But I will say this, and, it's funny, a lot of people have talked about Herbert this year, and he's been an easy guy to talk about in a somewhat negative fashion because of the playoff loss a year ago. But he's a highly talented guy. He's got high-level traits. So, again, now you're dealing with what do you want in a quarterback? Now, high-level traits don't automatically mean you'll be a great quarterback. He hasn't played enough to make a definitive judgment about what he is, other than the fact that he does have high-level traits, Paul. So, again, are you looking to get rid of this quarterback and find one that has lesser traits?
Yeah.
Or do you look at a guy that has high-level traits and, by all accounts, is a committed, smart guy, and assume that with further development, maybe with a new coaching staff now, they figure some things out? But, you get into the talent end of it, and the guy's got high-level talent.
What can foil, if anything, what can foil the Eagles?
I think their offense will likely be very good. I think defensively they've got a number of changes. And, when you have a lot of changes, including the defensive coordinator, I think that can take time. Now, I don't think that their defense is going to give up, 35 points a game. They've got a really good defensive line. That's where it starts. And boy, can they roll people out there. I mean, they've got 6, 7, 8 guys that they can roll out there and be really, really good. But they're going to have 2 new linebackers. They're going to have 2 new safeties, and we'll see how that plays out as the season starts. There is a learning curve. There is an adjustment period when that's the case, because defense is very, very much about communication, and we'll see how that goes. Because don't forget, this is when there's a lack of communication on defense, you can give up 60-yard touchdowns, and that's the last thing any defensive coordinator wants.
We lastly, and thanks for the time, we have the Tennessee Titans here in a couple of weeks for the first of two joint practices, and I love how the Vikings have done this year with Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, the GM, and the coach Kevin O'Connell. We have 2 joint joint practices with the Titans. Then the next week, we have 2 with Arizona. So you go from the rough and tumble physicality of Vrabel's team to the speed, sans Kyler, but the speed of the Arizona Cardinals. I just think that gets you set up nicely for the season. But for the purpose of the conversation, the Titans, they'll be here in 2 weeks. What do you think of the Titans?
Well, I think their defense will be very good. Their D coordinator, Shane Bowen, is very good. I've actually been watching a lot of them as well, believe it or not. People might think I'm nuts watching the Titans, but I've been watching a lot of them. The big question is Tim Kelly is their new offensive coordinator. Now, he was there a year ago, but he cut his teeth in the NFL under Bill O'Brien with the Houston Texans. He's more of a pass guy than a run guy, but they still have Derrick Henry. So it's going to be interesting to me, and we won't know the answer to this. You may not even know the answer to this when you watch them practice, because teams obviously don't show a ton when they practice. They'll show some stuff, but I'm curious to see how they go about putting together an offense. Obviously it's been clearly Derrick Henry based, and I'm not suggesting they're going to not give the ball to Derrick Henry, but you can make subtle incremental changes in your offensive approach, because I think they understand that they need more in the pass game. They obviously signed Hopkins. By all accounts, Treylon Burks, their number 1 pick a year ago at wide receiver, is having a very good camp. He's a very talented guy, Paul. So, they might have a lot more at the skill position than people think who don't follow the Titans. So I'm just curious to see what their offense is going to look like.
What did you think of Jordan Addison out of USC? I mean, he's unbelievably twitchy in training camp.
Yeah, I like Jordan Addison. It's funny how things have changed now in the league a little bit. I think Devonta Smith has helped change that. I mean, Addison's only 170-plus pounds, whereas years ago people would have said, oh, that's a problem. But I think with Devonta Smith, showing that he can really perform at a high level for the Eagles, I think that weight is not considered as much of an issue. But yeah, I liked him coming out. I thought he had 3-level dimension ability, short, intermediate, and vertical. Not a burner, but I thought he was very savvy as a route runner, and that allowed him to be a vertical dimension at times. So I really liked the player on tape coming out of college.
Spectacular, my friend. Have a wonderful summer, and we'll catch up soon, all right?
All right, Paul. Appreciate it, my man. Thanks.
See you, bud. Greg Cosell, NFL Films. I mean, that's a smart football mind right there. At Greg Cosell is where you find him via social media. It's 11:30. You're listening
on the Fan.
You're the intrepid nature of the producer, specifically this time of the year, when I have all 3 of my jobs rolling, and I also am working with a chapel at Canterbury Park, and that takes some time too. Specifically when we have our 6 o'clock sermons.
Did the food situation work out yesterday?
Oh, it's terrific. It was fantastic. Yeah, it was. It was taco meat, and it was tacos and beans and rice and stuff like that. And,
okay.
And homemade treats from the kind people who brought it. So yeah, it does. Stop by sometime. I think you and the kids would enjoy it. But with that said, you hit me at a time where I'm just completely clipped with things going on, getting the organization, the music and the singer and the microphone and the slides and everything for the sermon. And this is FIVA, Fairness and Box Act. I did not look at the tweet that you sent me.
Oh, yeah.
So you sent me a tweet and you laid it out. Interesting, like active NFL totals or something. So I knew it was more than just, all right, PA, Buccaneers 8.5. Which way are you going to go, over or under? Or maybe it is that, and that's always fun too. So the long winding circumnavigation of this conversation gets me to the point where to share with you is I did not look at what you sent, but it was compelling and intriguing to me because it was intriguing to you. What is it, and how does it play?
Yeah, simply enough. And at some point, we've done this the last several years, if not many more beyond several. Just overs and unders, how we feel. Is there a sneaky one that everyone's sleeping on?
I see. Okay.
Is there somebody that everyone's hot on?
Yeah, I misread your text.
That we would go on? No, but here's where it comes to. Is I saw an update via The Athletic that via BetMGM, they just had some notes on at this stage.
Oh.
Rubes that are betting.
Yeah.
And I was a couple just kind of smacked me in the face a little bit and interested me.
Well, there was a lot of gold in our heels this time last year with exactly that, and I looked the other way. And it was the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah.
Where I thought they were dramatically overvalued because they were like, I don't remember what they ended up at, maybe a 10 or a 10.5 for the season total. But like the sucker began at 8.
Yeah.
And then it's like 9. And that takes a lot of money to move that the way it did. Then it kept going up. And I'm like, well, whatever, man. I mean, it's not that easy. Well, it turned out it was that easy. And Charch nailed that when the schedule came out. You know, I think one of the first things Paul said was, if you look at the schedule and the natural progression of Jalen Hurts and the fact they drafted this Georgia guy, who I'm going to make sound like John Randall, even though he's going to play 13 plays a game, I think they're going to win at least 13 ever. And Charchie nailed it.
Charchie was dead on. So this via BetMGM, I just have some top 3. So it's the most bet overs. So the most bet. So these are the teams that people are saying, oh, they have to win more than that many games.
That's sharp.
And he has both the tickets and then the handle. So the total number of tickets for those that don't bet on that stuff, that just means the total number of different bets placed on the team. The handle means the total amount of money that is being placed on these teams.
And
so
that's at the Athletic?
This is at the Athletic via BetMGM.
Wow, that's sweet.
So the most bet overs right now, and this one absolutely got me. One of them's no surprise, but this one absolutely got me. The most bet over in tickets right now, total number of bets, the Patriots over 7.5.
Oh my gosh!
So in the midst of all that steam, not only on the Bills, but of course Rodgers with the Jets, and then Miami hoping via health that they can bounce back and win more games. The most bet overs right now in total tickets via BetMGM is the Patriots over 7.5. Now, number 2 comes in.
So let's just go team by team here for a second, because this can carry over to tomorrow because it's very compelling. The New England Patriots. All right, so this worked with a fair amount of teams last year, and I think with you, Jacksonville was one of them.
Jacksonville and the Jets were 2 teams.
Yep, and the Lions were one with me, and I whiffed on the Eagles. Let's see. New England, just using the gift of discernment to see what I think.
Yeah.
What we think. All right, so they start the season at home against Philadelphia.
L.
Yeah, that's going to be a loss. Then they're home for Miami.
Sunday night game. I like that as potentially a W.
I'm going to put them on an L.
Okay.
At the Jets, they're going to lose. At Dallas, they're going to win. New Orleans at home.
Derek Carr.
Yep, I'll say they'll win that. So that's 2.
At Vegas, Josh McDaniels, though.
Ooh,
I think Belichick beats McDaniels.
That's 3. Thank you. Then they give Buffalo. They'll split with Buffalo. So I'll give them that one. They'll split with Miami. I'll give them that one. They're at 5. Disease Commanders. Colts at home. They're at the Giants. Chargers at home. At Steelers. Chiefs at home week 15. At Denver week 16. At Buffalo week 17. Jets at home week 18. Wow. 7.5 is that number?
7.5.
They're going to get it. They're
going to go over.
Yeah, that's an 8-9 team.
Woo.
Yeah, that's so you're telling me the majority of the over bets on all season totals that are being made,
Total tickets.
go the way of the New England Patriots.
Over 7.5.
Okay, now, is there a side to that with total handle?
They are the second highest handle in the NFL.
Wow.
There is one team right now.
Okay, hold on. That is being bet over?
A turmoil team handle-wise.
Them.
More than the Patriots.
I say the Green Bay Packers.
The Washington Commanders. The highest handle on overs.
Well, you know what?
At 6.5.
Let's put 2 things in here. And you, and I don't know if it was you, but other people giggled at me when I said this. And I don't know if it's right. Don't kill the messenger. I'm just sharing information. That USC quarterback, Sam Howell,
yeah.
They love him. I mean,
yes, they do.
They love him.
So weird.
And that information was secured right at the end of last season when everything was a disaster. So the quarterback's undervalued, and Dan Snyder is gone. I mean, that right there, it opens. What does it open? It opens other people with the ability to have an opinion, to spread their Matt LaFleur-laden wings and actually feel what they're saying matters.
What if the Dan Snyder bit is like the Kwesi and KOC bit, where there's this massive culture change within the organization?
Oh, there will be.
And people are celebrating it like actively and openly the way that we both saw in the halls a year ago.
Yeah, you stare at a cheerleader, all of a sudden you lose an ankle. I mean, it's not potentially suspended let's go the other way. You leer at a cheerleader, well, you get a raise. That's what it used to be. You put the cheerleaders in front of the visitors' locker room as they're running out for halftime. Well, that's bonus worthy. That's not the case anymore.
No, it is not.
So therefore, you stare at one now and you'll end up with 9 toes. So whichever way the culture goes off that, I mean, you hit on it. The look at last year here.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just going to stop right there because there are too many people listening. And then all of a sudden in the afternoon, I get a text message saying, so I'll just stop right there.
Absolutely.
They won 13 last year, and it was one of the most joyous seasons I've ever had being next to a football team because of the happiness.
It was unbelievable. So to kind of sum this up, and maybe we can look at the unders another time. The most bet overs and tickets were the Patriots at 7.5.
Mm-hmm.
The Broncos. This for me is not surprising because they're riding that train. It's Sean Payton and the BH lips.
Payton can coach offense.
Yeah, and then it was the Commanders at 6.5. That's in total tickets. The most bet overs in handle were the Commanders, as I mentioned, then the Patriots, and then the Steelers, feeling that Kenny Pickett vibe.
Yeah, I love that. Let's get more into it tomorrow. The final segment's around the corner, 9 to noon. Then Nordo's are. All right, so we have JoJo going this evening against Dakota Hudson, and the game's at Busch Stadium. The Minnesota Twins are a minus 135 favorite in this spot. It's the St. Louis Cardinals and the San Diego Padres have just been one of the two, at least from a hitting standpoint specifically and consistently, one of the two great underachievers I can remember in recent history. But they're about to be joined, and I'm sure I'm missing something here. Like maybe the Yankees made a trade or did something that I'm missing, and it's just not hitting me quick twitch fashion. Now, from a trade deadline standpoint, unless I'm missing something here, I don't think the Yankees did much at the Major League Baseball trade deadline.
I don't believe so either.
Yeah,
their biggest thing is Judge had a ligament in his toe or whatever.
And
so
he's back.
Yeah, and now he's just getting back.
Right, and they're getting killed every game. And they on Sunday Night Baseball the other night, they lost 5-1. And I don't think Judge played, but it was so vibeless that there are major problems within that covenant. And I don't exactly know what they are. Like Stanton has had an awful hitting season, but without Judge as the protector and the amplifier by him, maybe that plays into it. Anthony Rizzo's paid $8 billion. He's been awful, but there's just something in the metaphorical water that is Major League Baseball right now.
Well, they've made all those moves. I mean, Donaldson, and he's out now for the season, but think about the amount of money they put on Donaldson.
Yeah.
They get rid of Gio Urshela, who at one point they really liked.
Yeah.
They got
one pitcher.
They got rid of Aaron Hicks, who has actually been doing much better with other teams, and a lot of these moves have all been
Baltimore.
Have all been based on revolving around all that cash with Stanton and Judge and Rizzo.
Right, and Luis Severino and Domingo Herman have just fallen off the cliff. But it's like there's nothing to rally them. It just looks like anguish there. And why I bring all that up is just because of what we said to begin the radio show. is the Twins don't do anything. You know, Cleveland trades one of its best 2 pitchers. Chicago trades 2 of its best 3 pitchers. And the Cleveland Guardians go to Houston last night after that trade's made and we're getting all settled in and everything, and they get no hit. So, I mean, it's unbelievable. The vibe or vibe-less scenarios in MLB right now. We're playing one of them with Goldschmidt and Arenado and Gorman and all those cats with St. Louis, and you got to get this one tonight because running away from these Guardians, if you give them an inkling of hope they can beat you, they might beat you, or you can run away by 6, 7, or 8, and then you're setting your postseason pitching rotation by Labor Day. We'll be back tomorrow. Thank you very much for listening. I'm Paul Allen. Here's an order for the wrap on the show.
And thank you to Casey's for bringing you the 9 to noon show wraps, not the content, just the time slot. 89-cent medium fountain and frozen drinks each and every day. And then, of course, the thin crust pizza, like the signature pizza. Everyone knows about Casey's Pizza. How about the thin crust? Now you can get your favorite pizzas in thin crust. Thank you, Casey's. They're here for good. At work, we're all trying to stay afloat. 9 to noon, trying to be that temporary antidote. Hard to believe we get paid to do this for 3 hours. Call us delusional, but we're never a cold shower. Well, except when it comes to the Twins. Fans throwing Buxton jerseys into trash bins. They're hoping and praying, oh, please, a big trade. Rube's thinking the front office is just afraid. But sometimes people don't like change. Things need to remain within a spectrum or a range. So in some ways, these teams we try to embrace, we should be happy because they're always in the same place. On the outside, now looking at the party, we long for trophies, cups, maybe a Lombardi. Ooh, the insanity, getting one wood in sight. Meantime, we're just kind of waiting for an invite.
It's time to stump the snob on 9 to noon. Podcast today's Paul back to previous show and interviews by going to the iHeartRadio app or